I always thought my life would start the day I joined the Corps. Ever since I was a kid, I used to watch recruitment videos. Men in uniform, standing tall, faces steady like they had the whole world figured out. I wanted that. Purpose, structure, a reason to wake up every morning knowing I was doing something that mattered. My name's Evan Blake, 19 years old, small-town kid from southern Missouri. My days were simple. Wake up, help my dad at the auto shop, train at the park, and count down the weeks until I shipped out. I wasn't the smartest guy in school, but I was steady, focused, the kind of person who doesn't need much to be happy. Then there was Lena. She'd been the girl I couldn't stop thinking about since middle school. Not that we were ever close. She was the kind of girl who lived in her own spotlight. Pretty, popular, unpredictable. I never really had a shot, and I knew that. But you can't help who you look at a little longer, who you imagine yourself walking home with after class. We'd drifted apart after graduation. She started hanging out with older guys, the kind who thought loud cars and cheap beer made them invincible. I'd see her sometimes at the gas station or the diner, her eyes tired but still somehow bright. She'd smile like nothing was wrong, but you could tell something was. Then one evening, she texted me. It was out of nowhere. "Hey, can we talk?" I remember staring at my phone for a good minute before replying. I didn't think much of it. Maybe she needed advice, or maybe she was just bored. We met at the park near the lake, the one with the broken swing set and the old oak tree that everyone carved their initials into. When she showed up, she looked different, pale, nervous, like she hadn't slept in days. "I'm pregnant," she said, just like that. No warm-up, no small talk. The world tilted a little. "Okay," I managed. "So, what do you need me for?" Her eyes filled with tears. "You don't get it, Evan. The guy, he's gone. He left. My parents are freaking out. They think I need someone stable, someone like you." I didn't know whether to laugh or run. "Lena, I'm not the dad." She looked down, twisting her fingers. "I know, but you're a good guy. You've always been good. They think you could help. Be there. Maybe we could even try dating." Dating? With a baby on the way? I felt my chest tighten. I wasn't even sure how to pay my own rent, let alone raise someone else's kid. "I can't," I said quietly. "I'm joining the Corps in a few months. This isn't something I can take on." Her expression changed fast, sadness replaced by anger. "So, that's it? You're just gonna run off and leave me to deal with this alone?" I took a step back. "Lena, it's not my responsibility." That was the first time I ever saw her truly hate me. She didn't yell, didn't cry, just looked at me like I was the worst kind of coward. Then she walked away. I stood there for a long time, staring at the lake, trying to process what had just happened. For the first time in years, the Corps didn't feel like a dream. It felt like escape. Later that night, her dad showed up at our house. He was a big man, one of those old-school types who believed respect was earned through volume. He pounded on the door until my dad answered. I could hear them from my room, voices rising, the word responsibility being thrown around like a weapon. When my dad finally came upstairs, he looked exhausted. "Son," he said, sitting on the edge of my bed, "you listen to me carefully. That girl's problems are not your problems. You didn't make this mess, and you don't fix what isn't yours to fix. Understand?" I nodded, though part of me still felt like garbage. "Yeah." He sighed. "You're young, Evan. You've got your whole life ahead of you. Don't throw it away because someone else wants a way out." I didn't sleep much that night. The guilt, the anger, the confusion, they all tangled up in my chest. I kept thinking about Lena's face, the way her voice cracked when she said alone. But I also thought about the uniform, the path I'd worked for, the freedom waiting just beyond the horizon. And deep down, I knew there was no going back. The next few days felt like walking through fog. I went to work at my dad's shop, same as always, but something was different. Customers would look at me just a second too long. My coworker, Travis, kept asking if I was okay, man, like I'd come down with something. It didn't take long before I figured out why. Small towns don't keep secrets. By Monday, everyone knew. At the diner, at the gas station, at the gym, whispers followed me like shadows. I'd catch parts of conversations. "That's the boy who left her," or "She's pregnant, poor thing." I could feel the judgment crawling over my skin every time someone smiled too kindly or avoided my eyes altogether. Then came the text from Lena's mom. "We need to talk. This isn't fair to Lena." I didn't answer. I'd already made myself clear. But the messages kept coming. Longer, guiltier, more desperate. By the end of the day, my phone had over a dozen unread notifications. When I finally told my dad, he just shook his head. Block them, he said. You owe them nothing. I know, I said. It just feels wrong. He turned to me, grease still on his hands from the carburetor he'd been fixing. Feeling bad doesn't mean you're guilty, son. It just means you've got a conscience. Don't confuse that with obligation. That night, I sat in my room scrolling through old photos. One of Lena smiling at a bonfire, another from graduation, her in that white dress that everyone said made her look like she belonged in a movie. She used to make the world seem brighter, even when I was just watching from the sidelines. But now, every time I thought about her, all I could see was the storm that came with her name 2 days later. Things got worse. I was closing up the shop when I saw a familiar car pull into the parking lot. It was her dad's old Ford pickup, dented, loud, unmistakable. My stomach tightened. He got out, slammed the door, and started toward me with that same angry look I remembered from the night he came to our house. You think you can just walk away, boy? He said, his voice sharp and heavy. I told Lena I'm not the father, I replied, keeping my distance. He stepped closer. She's 18. She's scared. And you're too much of a coward to help her? To be a man? Something in me snapped. Being a man doesn't mean fixing mistakes that aren't mine. I didn't get her pregnant. His face turned red, veins rising in his neck. You loved her, didn't you? Don't you still? What kind of man watches someone he loves drown and just stands there? I clenched my fists. I could hear my heart pounding in my ears. With all due respect, sir, I'm not your family's lifeline. You raised her. You deal with this. For a moment, I thought he'd hit me. He just stared, long, cold, burning holes through me, then spat on the ground and walked back to his truck. After he drove off, I locked up the shop and sat in my car for nearly an hour, just breathing. That night, my dad found me sitting on the porch. He came by, didn't he? He asked. I nodded. Then we'll handle this the right way. If they keep pushing, we'll talk to the sheriff. I didn't say anything. I just stared at the dark road stretching beyond our driveway, the same road that led to the recruiter's office in town. The next morning, when I showed up to the gym, even Travis couldn't keep his mouth shut. Man, I heard Lena's parents are telling people you promised to take care of her. That true? I felt my jaw tighten. No, he whistled low. Then they're really making you the villain out here. It was strange how fast people could twist a story. In a week, I went from the quiet guy saving up for the Corps to the heartless jerk who abandoned a pregnant girl. And Lena, she didn't help. She started posting pictures of baby clothes, quotes about true men taking responsibility, and captions like, some people only show their real selves when you need them most. Everyone knew who she was talking about. I didn't respond. I didn't text. I didn't go to the diner or the park or anywhere she might be. I tried to stay invisible, to let the noise die down, but it didn't. My recruiter, Sergeant Collins, even called me into his office. Son, he said, flipping the file. File. Anything going on I should know about? No, sir, I said. He looked me dead in the eye. You sure? Because we do background checks if there's some kind of restraining order, family issue, or domestic dispute. I need to know now. My stomach dropped. It's nothing, sir. Just rumors. He leaned back. Then keep it that way. Don't let small-town drama follow you into the Corps. You've got a clean slate waiting. Don't ruin it. When I walked out of that office, the sun felt brighter than usual. Almost mocking, I realized I was at a crossroads. Either I let this mess define me, or I draw a line and stand by it. That night, I blocked Lena and her parents on every app, every platform, every number I had. I deleted old messages, photos, everything. It felt brutal, final. But for the first time in weeks, I could breathe again. Blocking Lena and her parents should have been the end of it, but in a town where everyone knows everyone, distance doesn't always mean peace. For a while, it was quiet. I'd wake up early, head to the shop, train in the evenings, and count down the weeks until my ship date. My recruiter had finalized everything. I was supposed to leave in a little under 2 months. Every day I checked the calendar like a prisoner scratching days off the wall. Then, one evening, I came home and saw a note taped to our front door. It was written in neat cursive on pink paper. Evan, please just talk to me. You don't understand how scared I am. I need you. The baby needs you. My chest went cold. She knew where I lived. Of course she did. But leaving a note on the door? That crossed a line. I showed it to my dad. He didn't even finish reading it before crumpling it in his hand. That's enough, he said. We're going to the sheriff tomorrow. The next morning, we sat in a small office with the smell of old coffee and paper. Sheriff Harlan listened quietly while I explained everything. The pressure, the texts, the visit from her father, the note. When I finished, he nodded slowly. You did the right thing, son, he said. I'll file this as a harassment report. We can't do much unless they contact you again, but this puts it on record. If they show up here again, call us immediately. That should have made me feel better, but it didn't. It felt like the kind of safety you get from locking a flimsy door and hoping no one tests it. 2 nights later, around 9, I heard a car in the driveway. Headlights washed over my bedroom wall. My dad was already halfway to the door when I got up. It was Lena's mom. She stood outside in a sweater and jeans, her hair pulled back, face pale under the porch light. "Mr. Blake," she said, voice trembling, "please, I just need to talk to Evan." "You need to leave," my dad said flatly. "Please," she insisted. "He doesn't understand she's falling apart. We don't have anyone else." My dad stepped outside, closing the screen door behind him. "That's not my son's problem. You and your husband need to take care of your own family. If I see you here again, I'll have the sheriff drive you home himself." She stared at him for a moment, eyes wet and angry, then turned and left. After that night, I started checking every sound outside, every car that slowed down near our house. It was exhausting, like waiting for a storm that never really passes. Then came the breaking point. It was Saturday. I was working late at the shop, cleaning up after closing, when I heard the bell above the door ring. I turned and froze. It was Lena. She looked thinner, her belly just starting to show beneath an oversized hoodie. She gave a small, shaky smile. "Evan, please, don't be mad. I just wanted to see you." I took a breath, steadying my voice. "Lena, you can't be here." Her voice cracked. "I don't know what to do. I can't sleep. I can't think. Everyone's treating me like I'm ruined. I thought maybe you could still be there for me. Not as the dad, but just someone." I looked at her, really looked. The girl I used to dream about was gone. What stood in front of me was someone lost, scared, and clinging to anyone who'd listen. "Lena," I said quietly, "you need to go home." Tears filled her eyes. "So that's it? You just want to pretend I don't exist?" I shook my head. "No, I just want my life back." She stepped closer. "You don't have to marry me, okay? Just be there. I'll make it work. Please." I stepped back, my hands shaking. "You need to leave now or I'll call the sheriff." For a second, I thought she might collapse. Instead, she turned, ran out the door, and drove off into the dark. When I got home, I told my dad everything. He called the sheriff immediately. Within an hour, 2 deputies came by to take another statement that night. I filed for a temporary restraining order. It felt surreal, like I was starring in someone else's nightmare. The paper said she couldn't come within 100 yards of me, my house, or my workplace. Same for her parents. The next morning, I dropped the paperwork off at the sheriff's office and signed my name at the bottom. I remember my hand trembling as I wrote it, not from fear, but from finality. Later that day, the sheriff himself called. "Evan," he said, "they've been notified. If they contact you again, even through someone else, it's a violation. We'll handle it." When I hung up, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Relief. For the first time, I believed I might actually make it to boot camp without this whole thing dragging me down. But even then, deep down, I knew things like this never really end cleanly. Not in small towns. Not when pride and gossip run deeper than blood. The silence after the restraining order was almost unnerving. For weeks, I waited for another call, another knock, another note on the door. But nothing came. No texts, no sightings, not even whispers. Just quiet. At first, it felt like victory, like I'd finally reclaimed my life. But as the days went by, that silence began to feel heavy. There were moments late at night when I'd lie awake and wonder what she was doing. If she was okay, if her parents still blamed me, if the baby had been born yet. Every time my mind went there, I'd force it back. I told myself it wasn't my problem, that I'd done the right thing. But guilt has a way of whispering even when you plug your ears. I threw myself into preparation. My morning started before sunrise, running through the dirt roads, push-ups until my arms burned, pull-ups on the old iron bar behind the shop. My recruiter said mental discipline was half the battle, so I made pain my teacher. Every drop of sweat was proof that I was still moving forward, away from the chaos, toward something solid. My dad watched quietly. He didn't say much, but I could tell he was proud. Sometimes, when he thought I wasn't looking, he'd smile a little, like he knew I was becoming the man he hoped I'd be. But there were nights when I caught him looking worried instead. Maybe he saw the same thing I felt, that I wasn't really at peace, just running from something I didn't know how to face. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset over the fields, he finally spoke. "You still think about her, don't you?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. She's not your responsibility, Evan. You know that. "I know," I said quietly. "But it still feels wrong." He nodded slowly. Feeling wrong doesn't mean you made the wrong choice. It means you care. And that's a good thing, as long as you don't let it chain you down. That night, I took a long walk down the road that led to town. The air smelled like rain and old dirt. Somewhere far off, dogs barked. The kind of small-town soundtrack that feels eternal. As I walked, I thought about everything that had happened, how fast things had spiraled, how love or the idea of it could turn into something suffocating. I remembered the way Lena looked that night at the park, frightened, desperate. And I wondered if maybe part of me could have helped her in some small way, without giving up everything. But then I remembered the look in her father's eyes, the rumors, the accusations, the feeling of being hunted by people who decided my role without asking me. That's when I realized what they wanted wasn't help. It was control. I stopped by the lake, the same one where she first told me she was pregnant. The moonlight cut across the water, silver and still. For a moment, it felt like I was standing in two timelines at once. The one where I stayed, and the one where I walked away. In the version where I stayed, maybe I'd be stuck in this town, working long shifts, paying rent for a house that never felt like home, raising a child that wasn't mine. Maybe there'd be love, but also resentment, the quiet kind that builds walls between two people until they forget why they even tried. In this version, though, the one I was living, there was pain, yes, but also freedom, a chance to start over, to build something on my own terms. I took a deep breath, letting the cold air fill my lungs, and whispered to the empty lake, "I'm sorry." I wasn't sure who I was saying it to. Lena, her family, or maybe just the version of myself that once thought love meant saving someone no matter the cost. When I got home, I found an envelope sitting on the porch. No name, no return address. My stomach tightened as I opened it. Inside was a short letter written in shaky handwriting. "I'm leaving town soon. I won't bother you again. I just wanted you to know I'm keeping the baby. I hope you find what you're looking for. L." I stood there for a long time, staring at the paper. I didn't feel anger or relief, just closure. I went inside, placed the letter in the drawer next to my enlistment papers, and turned off the light. For the first time in months, I slept through the night. The next morning, I woke before sunrise. My dad was already in the kitchen, coffee steaming beside him. "Big day," he said. "Recruiters coming to pick you up, right?" "Yeah," I said, tying my boots. "It's finally happening." He looked at me for a moment, then said, "You did good, son. You handled more than most people your age ever should." And for the first time, I believed him. The bus pulled into Paris Island before dawn. The windows were fogged, the air thick with humidity and fear. Every guy on that bus looked like I felt, exhausted, nervous, trying to act tougher than we were. Then the doors opened and all hell broke loose. Drill instructors didn't walk. They stormed. They barked orders faster than I could think, voices cutting through the air like blades. "Off the bus! Line up! Eyes forward!" It was chaos. Beautiful, disciplined chaos. For the first time in months, I didn't have time to think about anything except surviving the next command. My name, my past, my small town. None of it mattered here. Here, everyone started at zero. The days bled into each other. Sweat, sand, blisters, and shouts. Every muscle in my body screamed, but my mind, it was quiet. The noise inside me, the guilt, the second guessing, it all drowned under the rhythm of training. Wake up, move, endure, repeat. At night, lying in the barracks, I'd sometimes think about home. Not about Lena exactly, but about the version of me that used to worry about her. That kid felt like a stranger now. Soft, uncertain, untested. I wondered if he'd even recognize the person I was becoming. Weeks turned into months. I passed my rifle qualification, made it through the crucible, and earned my Eagle, Globe, and Anchor. It was the proudest moment of my life, standing there in the humid Carolina air, holding that symbol in my palm, knowing I'd made it. When we got a short break before our next assignment, I sat down to write my dad a letter. No phone, no distractions, just ink and paper. "Dad, I made it. I'm officially a Marine. Thank you for pushing me to stay strong even when it got hard. I'll never forget what you said. That feeling bad doesn't mean being wrong. You were right. I hope everything's good at home. I'll call when I can." I sealed it and handed it to the mail clerk. It felt good, like closing another door behind me. But a week later, another envelope found its way to me. No return name, no unit info. Just my name and handwriting I recognized immediately. Lena. For a moment, I thought about tossing it unopened, but something in me needed to know. I opened it carefully, the paper trembling in my hands. "Evan, I promised I wouldn't bother you again, and I mean that. I just wanted you to know the baby was born. A girl. Her name's Hope. I'm doing my best. I don't expect anything from you. I just wanted to say I'm sorry for everything. I didn't understand what I was asking of you back then. You deserved your own life. I'm glad you found it. L. I read it twice, then a third time. Each word sank into me like slow rain. There was no manipulation, no guilt, just honesty. Maybe for the first time since all of it began. I folded the letter carefully and slipped it into my locker. That night, as the barracks lights went out, I lay awake listening to the slow, steady breathing of the other recruits. I thought about that baby. Hope. A name like that doesn't happen by accident. I wondered if she'd grow up hearing stories about the boy who walked away, or if I'd just fade into a distant memory, another lesson about choices and consequences. But instead of guilt, I felt something else. Peace. Lena was alive, the baby was safe, and I was finally where I was meant to be. When I called my dad that weekend, he sounded prouder than ever. So, he said, "You did it, Marine." "Yes, sir," I said. "Feels good." "You sound different," he said. "Older?" "Maybe I am." We talked for a while, about the guys in my platoon, the food, the heat. But before we hung up, he said something that stuck with me. "You know, Evan, life has a way of testing whether we really mean what we say. You said you wanted to be your own man. Looks like you passed the test." After that call, I walked outside. The sky was wide and dark, full of stars, the kind of sky you can only see away from cities. The same stars that hung above my small town, the same ones over Lena and her baby. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was running from something. I was just living. It had been almost 2 years since I left. 2 years since that hot Carolina morning when I earned the title Marine, packed my duffel, and walked into a new life. The Corps had a way of changing you, not just your body, but your mind. You learn to move with purpose, speak with weight, and carry yourself like someone who belonged to something bigger. When I finally got leave to visit home, I almost didn't recognize the town from the bus window. Same streets, same diner, same water tower. But everything felt smaller, like I'd outgrown it. My dad met me at the station, his smile wide and proud. "Damn, son," he said, clapping me on the back. "You look like you could bench press your old man." I laughed. "You're not wrong." The house hadn't changed much. The same porch swing, same creaky steps, same smell of motor oil from the shop out back. It felt like stepping into a memory. That first night, we sat outside, beers in hand, listening to the cicadas hum. "So," my dad said, "how's life in the Corps treating you?" "It's good," I said. "Hard, but good makes sense, you know? Every day has a purpose." He nodded. "I can see that in you. You stand different now." We sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then he asked quietly, "You heard from her since?" I shook my head. "Not since the letter." "Probably for the best." "Yeah," I said. "Still think about it sometimes, though." "Of course you do. But thinking isn't the same as carrying." The next day, I drove into town. People noticed the uniform. Some nodded respectfully, others just smiled. The same folks who'd whispered behind my back years ago now greeted me like I was some kind of hometown hero. Funny how fast people rewrite stories. At the diner, the waitress recognized me. "Evan Blake, haven't seen you in forever." "Yeah," I said, smiling. "Been a while." "Lena still around?" she asked, casual as if she were asking about the weather. My smile faltered for half a second. "No idea." "Oh," she said, realizing her mistake. "Sorry, hun. Didn't mean to pry." But now the thought was there, sitting heavy in the back of my mind. Later that afternoon, I stopped by the lake, the same lake where it all began. The old oak tree still stood, scarred with initials and time. The air smelled like spring rain and cut grass. For a moment, it felt like nothing had changed at all. Then I heard footsteps behind me. "Didn't think I'd run into you here," a voice said softly. I turned. It was Lena. She looked older, not in a bad way, just worn. Her hair shorter, face a little thinner, but her eyes still had that spark. She was holding a little girl's hand, maybe a 1.5-year-old curly hair, big brown eyes. I froze. "She's beautiful," I said quietly. "Thanks," Lena replied. "Her name's Hope." For a few seconds, we just stood there, the wind moving through the trees. "I didn't mean to make things weird," she said. "We come here sometimes. She likes the ducks." "It's okay," I said. "You don't owe me an explanation." She nodded, then looked down at the water. "You're a Marine now. Congratulations." "Thanks. I saw your dad a while back. He said you were doing good." "I am." Silence again. Then she said, almost to herself, "I used to be so angry at you. I thought you abandoned me. But now, I get it. You were just trying to save yourself." I looked at her, really looked, and saw no bitterness left, just understanding, you've done good too, I said. Raising her, doing it on your own. That's strength. She smiled faintly. I didn't have much choice, but she's my reason now. Hope tugged on her sleeve, giggling at something by the shore. Lena bent down, lifted her up, and said, Say, bye, sweetheart. The little girl waved. Bye. I waved back, my throat tight. Take care of yourself, Lena. You too, Evan. And just like that, they walked away. I stood there long after they were gone, staring at the ripples in the water. There was no anger, no regret, just quiet acceptance. Life had gone on, for both of us. That night, I told my dad what happened. You okay? He asked. Yeah, I said. Actually, yeah, I think I am. He nodded, smiling. Closure's a rare thing, son. Be grateful when you get it. As I lay in bed later, I thought about Hope's little wave, Lena's tired but peaceful smile, and the strange way life circles back just to show you how far you've come. For the first time, I didn't feel like the kid who ran away from a mess. I felt like a man who made the hard choice and lived with it. It's been 6 years since that summer. 6 years since I left home with nothing but a duffel bag and a promise to myself that I wouldn't live someone else's life. Now, sitting on the porch of my small rented house near the base, I sometimes think about how everything turned out. I'm 25, a sergeant in the Corps, steady job, steady rhythm. Some nights I still wake up before dawn, out of habit, waiting for the sound of morning drill. Other nights I just sit here, listening to the wind move through the pines, and feel a kind of peace I never knew I'd earn. Back then, people thought I was running away. Maybe I was. But sometimes running is the only way to find who you really are. I remember how everyone used to talk about being a man. Her father especially, that line about real men step up. At the time, it made me feel small, ashamed, like I was failing some unspoken test. But I've learned something since then. Being a man isn't about sacrificing your life to prove something to people who don't care about your happiness. It's about making choices that come from strength, not fear. Lena taught me that in her own way. She didn't mean to. Neither of us was ready for what life threw at us. But when I saw her again by the lake that day, holding her little girl, I realized she had found her path too. We both grew up, just not together. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I had said yes back then. If I'd stayed, tried to raise a child that wasn't mine, given up the Corps, buried my dreams under responsibility that didn't belong to me, maybe I'd be miserable, maybe I'd resent her, maybe I'd never become the man I am now. But life doesn't run on what if. It moves forward, relentless, honest, unforgiving. A few months ago, I got a letter from my dad. He's older now, knees giving him trouble, still running that auto shop, like it's sacred ground. He wrote, "Proud of you, son. You did the hard thing, not just the right thing, but the hard one. Never forget that." That letter's pinned to my wall. Some days, when everything feels heavy, I read it again. I've seen real men in the Corps, guys who've been through hell, who've lost brothers, who keep showing up anyway. I've learned that manhood isn't loud. It's quiet. It's in restraint, in patience, in walking away from something that could destroy you even when everyone's watching. The truth is, I don't hate Lena. Not anymore. I hope she's doing okay. I hope her daughter's got the kind of future we both wanted, one built on strength, not mistakes. Maybe one day, Hope will grow up and understand that the world doesn't always give you heroes, sometimes just people doing their best with what they've got. A few weeks ago, I ran into a young recruit, kid barely 19, same age I was back then. He was stressing over a girl back home who wanted him to give up training and come back. I didn't tell him my story, not all of it, just enough. Do what makes you proud when you're 40, I told him. Not what makes people like you when you're 19. He nodded, like he understood, even if he didn't yet. That's the thing about life. The lessons stick long after the people are gone. Sometimes I still drive out to the lake when I'm home on leave. The oak tree's still there, initials still carved deep. I don't know who's keeping them alive, but it feels like a reminder that every story leaves a mark, even the painful ones. Last time I was there, I saw a young couple sitting where I once stood. They were laughing, barefoot in the grass, talking about their future like it was a promise. I smiled and walked past quietly. That's the full circle, realizing that the past doesn't own you anymore. Before I head back to base tomorrow, I'll stop by my dad's place. We'll drink a beer on the porch, talk about life, and he'll probably tell the same old stories about the one that got away. Only this time, I'll smile and let him. Because it's not regret anymore. It's gratitude. Gratitude that I learned what love isn't before I had to learn what it truly is. Gratitude that I listened when my old man told me to choose my own road. Gratitude that I became the man I wanted to be, not the one others tried to build out of guilt. As the sun sets over the pines, I breathe in the cool evening air and whisper a quiet thank you. To the Coors, to my dad, to the girl who once almost changed everything, and to the boy I used to be, who had the courage to walk away. Because now I understand. Being a man isn't about saving someone else's story. It's about writing your own. Telling Evan's story left a mark on me. Watching him face impossible pressure, guilt, and judgment at 19 reminded me how easily life can force choices no one is ready for. I felt anger at those who tried to control him, sadness for Lena and her baby, and relief when he finally stood up for himself. It's not about blame or who was right, it's about the quiet courage it takes to walk away from chaos, protect your future, and keep your heart intact. Evan's journey showed me that growing up isn't just about making the right choices. It's about finding the strength to honor your own path even when it hurts.